Let me ask you something. What are you really chasing? More money, more success, more recognition. You think when you finally get there, happiness will magically show up, right? But let me tell you the truth that most people never face. Happiness doesn't wait for your achievements. It doesn't live in your bank account, your relationships, or your titles. It lives in you right now, waiting to be activated. Most people live like emotional millionaires trapped in mental poverty. They have everything around them, but they've forgotten to feel it. Happiness isn't something you get, it's something you generate. It's not a reward, it's a responsibility. And if you don't master this, you'll keep running faster, working harder, chasing everything, and still feel empty. So today, right now, we're not talking about motivation, we're talking about liberation. The secret of happiness isn't hidden, it's just ignored. And when you discover how to control your emotional thermostat, when you learn how to create joy on command, you become unstoppable. Because happiness isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of power. We live in a world where everyone is running, chasing the next promotion, the next validation, the next version of themselves they think will finally make them happy. But that chase never ends, does it? Because every time you get what you thought you wanted, your mind moves the finish line. It whispers just a little more. And so men chase achievement believing it will bring them peace, while women chase perfection believing it will bring them worth. Both end up exhausted, not because they're not capable, but because they're creating from lack instead of power. The truth is, happiness doesn't come from pursuit, it comes from creation. You can't chase something that's already inside you. You were born with the capacity to feel joy, to create meaning, to turn ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. But somewhere along the line, you were taught that happiness was a destination, a prize at the end of a marathon you didn't even choose to run. The real transformation happens when you stop waiting for happiness to arrive and start building it moment by moment through your actions, your mindset, and your emotional state. Men often tie happiness to achievement, the results, the wins, the external evidence of their worth. They think, once I provide more, once I succeed more, once I prove more, then I'll feel fulfilled. But the mind doesn't reward completion, it rewards growth. You don't need to conquer the mountain to feel alive. You need to feel progress in your soul. Women, on the other hand, are often conditioned to tie happiness to harmony, relationships, acceptance, and being enough in the eyes of others. But the moment you make your peace dependent on someone else's approval, you hand them the keys to your emotions. True happiness begins when you reclaim them. When you stop chasing what you think will make you happy and start creating moments that do, everything changes. You stop being a slave to outcomes and become the architect of your own emotional state. You begin to realize that joy doesn't require conditions, it requires decisions. The decision to show up differently, the decision to appreciate instead of complain, the decision to be grateful instead of waiting for reasons to be. When you take responsibility for your emotional energy, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. Most people are waiting for life to make them feel something. They're waiting for that perfect day, that perfect person, that perfect moment. But the people who live with power don't wait. They create. They choose to find meaning in the mess, to find gratitude in the grind, to find purpose in the pain. And that's when happiness stops being a dream and becomes a discipline. Because real happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you generate from the inside out. When you stop chasing and start creating, you stop living as a seeker and start living as a creator. Every emotion you've ever felt, joy, fear, anger, love, happiness, was not created by what happened to you, but by what you told yourself about what happened. Your mind is the factory that manufactures every feeling you experience. It takes in raw materials from your environment, an event, a word, a memory, and instantly assigns it meaning. That meaning becomes emotion. Most people live their lives believing their feelings are reactions to life, when in truth, their feelings are productions of their thoughts. Once you understand this, you stop being a victim of emotion and start becoming the engineer of it. Men are often taught to suppress their emotions, to be strong, logical, and unshakable. But that doesn't eliminate feelings, it only disconnects them. When a man believes he must shut down his emotional side to survive, he starts living in a constant state of inner tension. The truth is, strength isn't the absence of emotion, it's mastery over it. Learning to understand what your mind is producing and why allows you to channel emotion into purpose. When a man learns to direct his thoughts, he stops being driven by frustration and starts being fueled by focus. That's how discipline and happiness begin to coexist, not by shutting off emotion, but by rewiring its source. Women, on the other hand, are often taught to be more emotionally expressive, but sometimes at the cost of taking ownership of what those emotions mean. Society tells women to feel everything, but not always how to manage what they feel. When a woman realizes her emotions are not permanent truths but momentary reflections of focus, she reclaims her power. She no longer allows external circumstances or other people's actions to dictate her internal weather. Instead of being pulled by emotional tides, she becomes the one steering the current. That shift from reaction to creation is where true emotional freedom begins. Your thoughts are the blueprints for every feeling you experience. When you focus on what's missing, you produce emptiness. When you focus on what's wrong, you manufacture stress. But when you focus on what's possible, you generate hope. Your mind doesn't care what it produces, it simply builds what you order. The quality of your emotions will always match the quality of your focus. If you feed your mind fear, it will construct anxiety. Feed it gratitude, it will build happiness. Every feeling is a reflection of what you've been rehearsing in your thoughts. People often say, I can't help how I feel, but that's only because they've forgotten they're the foremen of their own mental factory. The machinery doesn't run itself, it follows command. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can absolutely control the meaning you assign to it. Change the meaning, and the feeling changes instantly. When you learn to shift your focus, to interrupt the pattern of negative thought before it becomes an emotional storm, you gain leverage over life itself. Your happiness, your peace, your power, they're not waiting outside of you. They're being built right now in the factory of your mind. Most unhappiness doesn't come from what's missing. It comes from what we expected and didn't get. Expectation is the silent thief of joy. We build images in our minds of how life should be, how people should act, how success should look, and when reality doesn't match that picture, frustration is born. But here's the truth. Life doesn't owe us consistency. People don't owe us perfection, and the world doesn't move according to our scripts. The moment we trade expectation for appreciation, we take back control of our emotional state. Because you can't be angry and grateful at the same time. One destroys the other. Men often carry the weight of silent expectations, the expectation to perform, to provide, to always be strong. When life doesn't meet those standards, it feels like failure, even when it's just part of the process. The masculine mind is wired to measure, to achieve, to conquer, but that same drive can turn into disappointment when things don't move fast enough or people don't respond as expected. When a man shifts his focus from what's missing to what's working, his energy transforms. Gratitude doesn't make him passive. It makes him powerful. Because when you appreciate what you already have, you stop operating from scarcity and start creating from abundance. Women, too, carry deep expectations, emotional ones, the expectation to be understood, valued, seen, and loved in the way they give love. When those emotional needs aren't met, resentment builds quietly. The feminine heart thrives on connection and meaning, but when that is filtered through unmet expectation, even love starts to feel like labor. Appreciation is the cure to that emotional fatigue. When a woman learns to appreciate her own worth, her own growth, and even the imperfection of those she loves, her energy changes. She no longer waits for validation, she radiates it. And in that shift, she becomes magnetic because appreciation turns emotional wounds into emotional wisdom. The real trap of expectation is that it convinces you happiness will come after you achieve more, after they understand you, after everything aligns. But after is a dangerous word. It postpones joy indefinitely. Happiness doesn't live in the future. It lives in the present moment you keep overlooking. When you trade the demand for how life should be with gratitude for what it already is, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. And in that flow, peace is born. Appreciation is not weakness, it's mastery. It's the ability to look at the chaos and still find beauty. To look at a person's flaws and still see value. To look at yourself and still recognize progress. Every moment holds something to be grateful for, but you can't see it while you're blinded by unmet expectations. The mind can't serve two masters. It will either serve your disappointment or your gratitude. The moment you choose appreciation, your energy rises, your perspective widens, and life begins to feel lighter. Because happiness was never waiting at the end of your expectations. It's been hiding in the gratitude you've been too busy to feel. We live in a culture obsessed with appearance, achievement, and status, but starving for peace, presence, and purpose. People are trained to chase external success like it's the only scoreboard that matters, yet they wake up every day feeling empty inside. The real measurement of a fulfilled life isn't how much you've achieved. It's how emotionally fit you are when things don't go your way. Emotional fitness is the muscle that determines how long you can stand, how fast you recover, and how deeply you love despite the chaos around you. Without it, even success feels like stress disguised in a shiny package. Men often define their worth through performance. They're taught from a young age to measure value by output, how much they provide, how much they achieve, how much they can endure without breaking. But that mindset creates emotional exhaustion. When a man believes his success equals his significance, he becomes addicted to doing and forgets how to be. Emotional fitness teaches him that real strength is not the absence of vulnerability, but the ability to control what's happening inside regardless of what's happening outside. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering them. When a man learns to manage his internal world, he stops being defined by external results. That's when confidence becomes unshakable because it's no longer rented from success, it's owned through self-control. Women are often told they can have it all, but rarely are they told I'll hold it all without losing themselves in the process. The modern woman balances careers, relationships, expectations, and identities, often sacrificing her emotional health to keep everything looking perfect. But emotional fitness isn't about doing more, it's about feeling more intentionally. It's the ability to stay centered even when the world demands 100 versions of you. When a woman learns to strengthen her emotional state, she stops reacting to pressure and starts radiating calm power. Her presence becomes her strength, not her performance. And that's when she realizes she doesn't have to earn happiness, she can anchor it. External success is temporary, emotional fitness is permanent. You can lose a job or relationship or a fortune, but if you've trained your emotional muscles, you'll rise again faster, stronger, wiser. The difference between people who crumble and people who grow under pressure isn't talent or luck, it's their emotional conditioning. The emotionally fit person doesn't escape pain, they use it. They don't deny fear, they face it. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on mental discipline. Happiness doesn't come from control over outcomes, it comes from control over state. Every challenge you face is an emotional workout in disguise. Life will test your patience, your courage, your faith, and your focus, not to punish you, but to strengthen your emotional core. External success might impress the world, but emotional fitness transforms your world. Because at the end of every achievement, what you're really chasing isn't the trophy, it's the feeling you think it will give you. And when you learn to generate that feeling within, you become the kind of person success can no longer control because your peace no longer depends on it. Pain is the greatest sculptor of human strength. Every scar you carry, every heartbreak you've endured, every disappointment that broke you, it all has the potential to become fuel. The problem is, most people run from pain instead of learning from it. They numb it, deny it, distract themselves from it. But the truth is, what you resist will persist. Pain doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It transforms in anger, anxiety, or fear until you finally face it. The moment you decide to stop running and start transforming your pain, that's the moment you reclaim your power. Men are often taught to bury pain under silence. Society tells them that being strong means showing no weakness, so they build emotional walls and call it control. But that control becomes a cage. When a man hides from his pain, it festers in his confidence, his relationships, and his purpose. The shift happens when he learns that true strength isn't in pretending not to hurt, it's in using that hurt to fuel change. Pain can become the forge that builds his discipline, his patience, his resilience. Every failure, every rejection, every loss carries the blueprint of a lesson meant to sharpen his character. When he channels his pain to progress, he no longer sees struggle as punishment. He sees it as preparation. Women experience pain differently, often more emotionally, more internally, and more deeply connected to meaning. They feel the pain of betrayal, of being unseen, of giving too much, of not being enough in a world that demands perfection. But inside that pain lies extraordinary power. When a woman learns to sit with her pain instead of judging it, when she begins to see it as a teacher rather than a curse, her strength evolves. She no longer hides her emotions, she harnesses it. Her empathy becomes her edge, her heartbreak becomes her wisdom, and her vulnerability turns into a force that connects and heals, not only herself, but others around her. Pain is the universal equalizer. It visits everyone regardless of success, status, or strength. The difference lies in what you do with it. You can let pain define you, or you can let it refine you. When you ask, why is this happening to me? You become powerless. But when you ask, what is this trying to teach me? You awaken growth. That's the mindset shift that turns victims into victors. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who avoided pain. They're the ones who've learned to use it. Pain reveals who you are when comfort can't. Every wound carries energy, and that energy can destroy or create. You can let pain drain your spirit, or you can use it to ignite your purpose. When you turn your pain into power, your past stops holding you hostage and starts becoming your weapon. The moments that broke you can become the foundation of the person you were always meant to be. Pain was never meant to stop you. It was meant to shape you. It's life's way of handing you raw material. What you build from it determines everything. Most people live in a constant state of need, needing more money, more recognition, more love, more certainty. They wake up every day with a feeling that something is missing, and they chase to fill that emptiness. But living from need is like running on a treadmill. No matter how hard you push, you never move forward. The real shift happens when you start living from gratitude instead of need. Gratitude doesn't ignore ambition, it fuels it. It transforms desperation into direction, anxiety into assurance, and scarcity into strength. When you live from gratitude, you don't chase fulfillment, you create it. Men often measure their self-worth through achievement. They're conditioned to believe that the next win, the next deal, the next goal will finally make them feel complete. But when worth is tied to outcome, happiness becomes fragile. Living from gratitude changes that formula. It reminds a man that success isn't about getting more. It's about recognizing what he already has and using it with purpose. Gratitude shifts him from pressure to power. It allows him to operate from abundance instead of fear. When a man learns to start his day grateful for his strength, his struggles, his opportunities, he stops competing to prove something and starts creating to contribute something. That's when life stops feeling heavy and starts feeling meaningful. Women are often taught to give, to nurture, to carry emotional weight for everyone else. But that constant giving can leave them running on empty. When a woman lives from need, she begins to feel invisible, unappreciated, or not enough. But when she lives from gratitude, everything changes. She stops focusing on what's lacking and starts amplifying what's already beautiful. Gratitude reconnects her with her feminine energy, not the energy of striving, but of receiving, creating, and flowing. It reminds her that she doesn't have to earn peace, she can choose it. Gratitude allows her to give from overflow, not obligation. It shifts her from depletion to empowerment, from I need to I am blessed. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a state of being. It's training your mind to see the gift inside the grind. It's choosing to find value in the moments that don't go your way. When you live from gratitude, problems don't disappear, your perspective evolves. You start to see every challenge as a chance to grow, every delay as a lesson in patience, every loss as a reminder of what truly matters. Gratitude builds emotional immunity. It keeps you centered when life pulls at you from every direction. It gives you strength that no external achievement can replace. Living from need keeps you in survival mode, but living from gratitude keeps you in creation mode. The person who operates from need says, I'll be happy when, while the one who lives in gratitude says, I'm happy now, and that's why more will come. Gratitude is magnetic. It attracts better energy, better people, and better outcomes. It doesn't make you settle, it makes you powerful. Because when you live from a state of gratitude, you already have everything you thought you needed, and that's when life begins to give you even more.